Hello, hello, my beautiful pearls. I hope you are having a great Monday and I hope you had a great weekend. Mine was very eventful. There was some celebration, there was some work, so kind of everything was happening over the weekend. Today, I have actually an interesting topic to talk about. I like this topic because this is the topic that actually helped me become who I am today, and it helped me understand where I stand and who I am and what is it that I want, or what is it that I actually have working for me and what is it that I have working against me. So I used to always think that, and I used to tell my friends actually, this is who I am, whether you like it or not. This is my character. This is me. You like me for who I am. I used to use this word a lot. If you like me, you will like me for who I am. And if you don't, well, tough luck. I used to have this attitude. And then I realized that as long as I love who I am, that should be okay. But at one point in time, I was having struggle understanding even who I am and appreciating who I am and loving who I am. And the minute I found that vulnerability within me, that sometimes I don't really like who I am or who I was, let's put it this way, because that's not me anymore. Because of what I'm going to be talking about today, I worked on myself and I did a lot of work and a lot of digging to figure out what it was that was keeping me stuck in that situation of self, how do I say it? Self arrogance. I'm going to say it in that way. Not that I was arrogant, but I was so convinced that that me was the right me. And when I started working on the things that I worked on, and when I started realizing that there were issues that I had in my life that were actually causing me to think that this is who I am and people will have to like me the way I am, or even I have to like myself the way that I am. I didn't really like myself the way I was. There were things that were not working for me. There were things that were not happening right for me. There were places where I felt my energy was so wrong. And because of that, and because I realized that something is missing, or there's something that I must be doing wrong, I started like kind of investigating and to figure out what it was that was leading me to think that I'm actually flawless. Like, that's the arrogance I'm talking about. Nobody is flawless. We all have our things, we all have our issues, we all have our ups and downs, and we all have our, I like to call them demons, but we all have these issues that we struggle with throughout our lives, with who we are, with our characters, and with our personalities. But when we start working on those and when we allow our shields to drop, just to be able to go inside and figure out what it is that is causing this kind of attitude in our lives, or this kind of personality to manifest, or character to manifest in our life, then we start understanding things for us, and we realize, at least I did, that no matter where I am in my life, no matter how I'm feeling about myself, and no matter how tricky some things can be, everything can be fixed and everything can be worked out for my benefit or for your benefit. So today I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the things that we have in our life, in our character, in our experience throughout the conditioning that we've had in our years and years of life, how we have developed those limitations because of all of this, because of that experience, and also because of so many other reasons, and which are the reasons I'm going to be talking about, which are the origins of those limitations that I'm going to be talking about. Because sometimes we face things and we get to places that we don't really understand why we are there. We don't really understand why things happen to us the way they happen to us. And then we start questioning. This is why I started questioning, you know, why why am I always doing the same mistakes over and over again, especially when it comes to relationships? Why is it that I was not able to kind of keep a relationship at the same level it starts at? Because all my relationships, I have to say, all my relationships always started in such a beautiful way, very romantic, very high vibrational, and amazing and beautiful. And then all of a sudden, something happens and that beauty disappears. I know I was doing something wrong. And now I know what it was, right? Because of those limitations. And this is what I want to talk about today, these limitations, not just in relationships, in everything. These limitations create hurdles for us in our lives. They create obviously limitations, but these are limiting beliefs that we have or that we build throughout our lives. And when I say we have, this is why I was talking about different origins or different areas where our limiting beliefs actually start forming. Last week we were talking about one very specific limiting belief, which is the limiting belief that generates or that we create in our life as children when we don't do it consciously. Remember that. It's always happening subconsciously. It's not like we decide, okay, now I'm going to be that person. No, because especially when we are kids, it's like when we are, it forms between the age of 4 and 7 or 3 and 7. So really at that age, as kids, we are not aware. So everything that we are doing is happening in our subconscious mind. But we are bringing this and we are taking this. I like what I want to believe, and what I do believe is that we take that responsibility even when we do it when we are kids and we do it subconsciously, but it is a responsibility that we take on to develop those very specific beliefs. I'm going to talk about later on, I'm going to talk about really how our limiting beliefs, they form or we form them not to limit us initially, but eventually they become limiting. So I'll talk about that in a bit, but I just want to first tell you where exactly limiting beliefs start in us. So the one that I'm talking about now, and it's like we had an episode about it last week, a full episode about that, which is the limiting beliefs that we create in our childhood. So if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend that you see that episode with Talal, because we really went so deep into understanding how our limiting beliefs are created in our childhood. But this is one of the major, um, what do you call it, source of our limiting beliefs. It's not the only one, but it's one of the major source where our limiting beliefs are formed. Another source where our limiting beliefs are formed is actually in our genes. So basically it's genetic. So we kind of inherit that. And when I talk about limitations or limiting beliefs, I'm not talking about your like physical limitations or for example, I'm talking Arabic all of a sudden. For example, you cannot like move properly, or you have I don't know, cholesterol or something like that. I'm talking about limitations that are in your personality, in your person, in your character, that are limiting you from excelling in your life or from thriving in your life and from really understanding who you are and what you want and where you want to be in your life. These, when I say that they come to us genetically, basically it's like we are inheriting them from either our mother's side or our father's side, but we are inheriting them from them. And they might have inherited them from their ancestors as well. So any limitation or any limiting belief that we have can actually be coming to us from our ancestors, 7 generations before us. Anything before those 7 generations, if there's a limiting belief that we have been carrying from before 7 generations, this is a limiting belief that is actually created in history. We call it history because it's so long ago that this limiting belief has been created with one of our very, very, very old ancestors. And then it was passing down. But it's now historical because it's more than 7 generations. If it was created like 7 generations before until today, this is a genetic limiting belief that we are carrying with us. I'll give you an example of when I was working on myself and I was wondering why is it that I was always struggling to make ends meet, that I was always like, for me, making money was always something that I had to struggle to be able to make money. So it was always the case. And every time I wanted to do something or buy something or think of treating myself to anything, I would always think that, oh no, I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough. And it's always the I don't have enough, I don't have enough. There's no money. There's this mentality of lack. In my case, was a belief that I actually inherited from my great great grandfather, from my father's side. And there's a very interesting story because when I was working on that belief and I did the digging to understand where that belief started or where that belief generated, in my subconscious mind, I was literally in that space, in that time when my great 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 grandfather was having issues in his life, and he was actually very wealthy, and there was a war at that time, and he had to protect his family. So in order for him to protect his family, he had to sell everything, lose everything, take his family out, and run with his family into a place that was so unknown to him. And after that, everything that he needed to do was to make sure that his family is safe, was to make sure that he can provide for his family. So that loss that he had of all the wealth he had in his life, just to be able to sustain his family, became a struggle for him. And everything moving forward in from that his generation and forward, everyone in our family has an issue with money, has an issue with lack. When I look at everyone around me in our family, it is so obvious that we are not, or we were, well, at least for me, it's in the past tense now, but a lot of my family members and my extended family members, it's difficult for them to kind of feel wealthy. It's not about just having like the money physically. It's more of really feeling worthy of it, really feeling wealthy and abundant from inside. Because once you do that, once you are able to feel wealthy and abundant from inside, you're basically becoming a magnet for abundance. You're becoming a magnet for opportunities, for money, and for work, for business. Remember, abundance, even for love, abundance is not only about money. That's the financial side of abundance, but abundance is about everything. And when you are abundant, you become resourceful. You start receiving like your thoughts and the way you are thinking and the way you manipulate in a positive way everything around you to work for you. This is how you become when you are abundant. That's we call that resourcefulness. So I personally was carrying that lack limiting belief from my ancestor 3 or 4 generations before me, and I had to work on that so that I can get over it, not me personally, so that in my subconscious mind, this lack mentality is completely gone. I did remove it and I did replace it with other things. I'm going to talk about that also later. But just so you know, these are the things that you can do, by the way. And this is all going to be talked about in this episode today. So basically, that's the genetic belief that you can receive or you can inherit genetically from your ancestors. And like I said, anything that is before that, that was happening before those 7 generations, anything coming from then is actually a limiting belief that you are carrying with you from history. It is also something that is uh, known, and if you are carrying it from your history, then you will be using it, or it will be actually happening to you right now. It will be there, it's existing within you because you're carrying it from your history. Everyone else in your family has carried it from their history. Another place where you also want to investigate about your limiting beliefs, where they are coming from, is to understand if they are actually coming from a general group consciousness. A lot of beliefs are actually imposed on us, not by us, not by our inheritance, not by our genes, not by our ancestors, but actually by the group consciousness. So it's like it's something that everybody around us believes in, and it becomes a belief that we inherit. And it could be a limiting belief. It could be a good belief, but it could also be a limiting belief to us. Some beliefs for us can be limiting, for others can be liberating. So it all really depends on everything that you have working for you or against you in your life. Or, but everything is, remember, you're doing, or because you are the boss of this existence of yours. Remember, I'm always going to say that you are that boss, and this is why we are doing here. We are doing this here today so that we can tackle that boss or that champion within you and wake them up and tell them, come on, shine through, because you're there. You just want to be there, you know, not there and hiding and sleeping and, suppressed by all those limitations that have been created in your life throughout that history, that group consciousness where everybody believes something and then you just inherit it, that inheritance, that like genetic inheritance that you get from your ancestors 7 generations back and forward until your mom and your dad. And then obviously everything that you create for yourself, the limitations that you create for yourself when you are a child, because of also the environment. It's not like you decide to create them because you've got nothing to do. You know, it's not like, I have nothing to do. I'm very bored. Okay, let me create a limiting belief. That's not how it works. Okay. You have to actually, there's a situation that happens, and this is how your limiting belief is created. Like, for example, I will tell you, I say this and I'm saying it again now. I had a limiting belief that, and remember, I'm always using the past tense because honestly, I worked a lot on myself to release those limitations. But I had a limiting belief that love and pain should always come together. Like, love does not exist without pain, because this is how, when I was growing up, I connected the two, because my mom, God bless her soul, was abusive, and her abuse was always reasoned by love. So basically, she would abuse and say, I'm doing this because I love you. And, you know, in my little brain, the brain of a child of 4 or 5 or 6 years old, receiving that comment all the time that I'm hitting you because I love you, or I'm feeding you, I'm force feeding you because I love you, that connection becomes a connection and becomes something that you live with. And this is exactly how I lived. And that was mainly one of the reasons why I was struggling in my relationships, because I always connected love to pain. So if there was love and there was not pain, then something was wrong. And that, in my mind, that relationship is doomed to fail. And because I thought this way, every relationship failed, because I was thinking that way, because there is no love, or there was no love, or there was supposed to be no love without pain. So I had to work on that, and I had to release that limitation from myself, that love can happen for me without having to struggle, without having to go through pain, without having to feel like I have to be abused to be loved. I learned receiving, and I worked on myself to be that person, to understand that love can happen for me without the pain, without the struggle, without the hardship. So this was a limiting belief that was created in my childhood. We call those core limiting beliefs. They were created in our childhood. Another limiting belief is the limiting belief that actually comes with us to this planet. It's a limiting belief that we bring with us to this lifetime from other lifetimes. So these also limiting beliefs, they are with us. They're within our soul. They are carried from all the lifetimes, all the experiences that we've had throughout our existence, not just this lifetime, not just something that we are inheriting from our historical background. It could be also from the historical background of a completely different timeline in our life. So can you imagine how much stuff, excuse me, can you imagine how much stuff we've got going on? Can you imagine if we want to start to think of what is limiting us, where we can go, and what we can discover about ourselves? And I tell you, if you feel uncomfortable that you might discover things, I'm not going to lie to you. you will discover a lot of things about who you are, about why you're the way you are, or why you put yourself in situations that you put yourself in. But the beauty of it is when you understand it and when you work on it, you can actually release it and you can get out of that. Excuse me. So you can, in fact, get out of those limitations. The minute you start realizing that you actually have them and you start want to work on them and figure out how you can remove them from your life. And you don't just remove them, you actually remove them, you replace them with different programs in your life. And this is what we will be doing, by the way, in our Awaken the Champion Within You program. This is what we do. We work on our limitations, on understanding what our limiting beliefs are, and we understand how we can remove them and how we can replace them with beneficial beliefs and beneficial programs that will work for us so that we can succeed, so that we can become the best version of who we are. Remember, we are all divine creatures. We are all abundant by nature. We are all perfect by nature. But then our lives, with all the struggles, with all the experiences that we go through, with everything that we inherit and everything that comes our way from our surrounding, where we put ourselves, all of this shapes our lives in different ways. And we kind of forget that we are divine creatures. We kind of forget that we are abundant. We kind of forget that we are perfect, that we have no limitations, that the skies literally are not a limit even for us. So we start working on ourselves to remember who we are and what it is that our divinity has for us or in store for us. So now that I've talked about all of those origins for our limiting beliefs, and now that we've tackled where those limiting beliefs start, let's also talk about how we can understand, or we can even know where those limiting beliefs are coming from, and how we can figure out whether they are in our history, or whether we developed them when we were kids, or whether we inherited them from our ancestors. So to do that, there are several ways, there are several different techniques and modalities that are used all over the world for us to understand where our limitations are starting, or where the origin is. And it's very important that we work on our main limiting belief, and or our base limiting belief. I like to call it base because it is at the basis of all the other possible limiting beliefs that we can encounter when we are trying to find out what is limiting us. The minute you start working on yourself, when you are on your awakening journey, and you start wanting to understand why you are doing things the way that you are doing, or why things are not working for you, and then you start digging to figure out what is limiting you. This is the digging to figure out what is limiting you, is what is going to get you to your limiting beliefs. Now, your limiting beliefs, sometimes we do work on ourselves and we kind of reach a place where we think this is our limiting belief. But then, and we work on that, but then we start doing the same mistakes over and over again, which means that we didn't actually get to the core or to the base or to that root belief that is causing all those other limiting beliefs that are layered on top of it. So basically, when you want to work on your limiting belief and to make sure that that limiting belief is gone, you cannot work on the top layers. You will be digging deeper and deeper and deeper to reach that core, that root limiting belief that is holding everything. So when you reach that limiting belief that is holding everything, this is where you need to do the work. This is where you want to check where this limiting belief started, why did it start? And listen to this. This is the beauty of understanding your limiting beliefs, because nothing that you create for yourself in your life, or that you bring with you, or that you inherit, comes to you for nothing. Everything has a reason. Your limiting beliefs, as much as they are limiting you now, at one point in time, those limiting beliefs, they were actually there to support you and to help you. If it's not you, it's the person who actually initiated that limiting belief, or who actually started that limiting belief. So, for example, in my case, with my great 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 grandfather, that limiting belief that he had to struggle to make money, or that he had to, because he was in that situation, he created it because he needed to make sure that his family is taken care of. He needed to make sure that he can provide to his family. And that limiting belief that he had at the time, that I need to be like, there's scarcity, it made him become someone who is stronger, because he had to fight to make sure he makes ends meet and he puts food on the table. So he became a stronger person. It's true that it was limiting him, but it also helped him build that confidence that he can make it happen, that he can provide for his family, that he is strong enough to do that. So these are the good attributes of that belief. He managed to have those attributes, although that belief is something that included struggle for him, included lack for him, included worry for him. So there are two, like it's like a scale. So there are two sides to that scale: the good side and the not so good side. When we work with limiting beliefs, what we do mainly is we keep those good learnings that we have inherited, or that we have created ourselves. If it's a core belief, we keep them, and we kind of remove the negative ones and replace them with better ones. So instead of, for example, having to struggle to make ends meet, we replace that, for example, by we can bring food to the table without having to go through struggle, without coming from lack, without feeling burdened, that we know how to do this, that we are good at it, and that we can do it. These are the programs that we kind of program the subconscious mind with when we are working on limiting beliefs. And remember, when we work on limiting beliefs, it's not like me and you having a discussion and, oh yeah, let's go to your subconscious mind and check things out. What's happening over there? That's not how it works. This is a very, very grounded exercise. It's very serious exercise, and it is something that you will be doing for yourself to help yourself, and you will be doing that journey you will remember all of this. You will know where that limiting belief started. You will know how it helped whoever that limiting belief started with. And you will understand why actually you have it in your own life. Why does it still exist in your life? How is it serving you? How is it helping you? And then, is it helping you still? Or you can get rid of it. Is it okay to say goodbye to it? Is it okay to now say thank you and release that burden from whoever is trying to teach you that virtue that you are learning from having specific limiting beliefs? So, kind of like, for example, understanding or learning the virtue of patience. You will put yourself in situations where you will always need to be patient, where you will always need to be tolerant to things that are happening around you. But then when you develop that virtue and it becomes something innate, like as if it's innate in you and you've got it, that's it. You don't need those situations anymore. It's kind of like that simple. So instead of having those situations to teach you again and again how to be patient, once you are already, once that virtue is already developed within you, do you still need those situations? Are you still learning? Well, you learned. That's it. It's already there. You've learned it. So now you can release that learning experience because it's done. You're kind of done with it. The same thing happens when you are learning from your ancestors. When you're learning from your ancestors and you're bringing all those limiting beliefs from their own life, from their own experiences into your own experience, just so you can learn those virtues. When you start working on yourself, you realize that, okay, I have learned a few things. Sometimes you reach a point when you are working on yourself to try to understand why you have those limiting beliefs. Sometimes you reach a point where you think that, no, this limiting belief is still serving me. I cannot let it go because I still haven't learned properly from it. I still have something to learn. So sometimes it becomes a little bit tricky if you want to overcome a limiting belief and you are stuck in that loop where you think that, no, that limiting belief is still teaching you things. You will not be able to release it. You will have to go through that learning to understand what it is that that limiting belief is there to teach you. And once you learn that, only then you can release that limitation and you can release that limiting belief and bring in the programs that are actually those positive programs that actually kind of complement that limiting belief, but without having that limiting belief anymore. So it's like the cake, the bad icing, we remove it, we bring great icing on top of the cake. It's kind of like the icing that was kind of a little bit rotten and didn't look nice, and it's not really good for the cake or for anyone who's seeing the cake or anyone who wants to eat the cake. So we we remove it and we replace it with like this very beautiful, new, simple, helpful, and tasty icing that will help you in your development or in how you move forward with your life. So it's very important to remember that when you work on your limiting beliefs, it's not always going to be that you end up not having that limiting belief anymore, because if it's still serving you, it's going to stay. If it's still helping you and if it's still there to make you reach a certain place or a certain conviction or a certain virtue, like I was saying, it will not be removed, or it cannot be removed until you really, really have learned from it. Because even if you remove it and you haven't learned from it yet, it will come back. It's not like it's gone and that's it. It's kind of like when you are, I don't like this analogy, but this is the analogy that I'm getting right now. That kind of like when you are trying to stay fit, right? And you are eating properly, and everything that you are doing is right. If you're not convinced, the minute you start eating like anything that is outside of your habit, and if that body of yours is not convinced, you're going to gain that weight back. So it's kind of like very similar to that. If you're not convinced yet that this limiting belief has taught you what it needs to teach you, even if you remove it at any given point in time, it will come back later because it still needs to teach you, because you haven't learned yet. So this is what life is all about. It's a teaching, it's a learning journey. It's a school. It is a school, whether we admit it or not. This is where our soul comes to learn. And our soul is looking to elevate that vibration and elevate those virtues, and make sure that it has all those virtues, so that its vibration becomes higher and higher all the time. So how do we do that? By digging again. And once we dig, we need to understand where that origin is coming from. So you dig for that limiting belief. You try to figure out where that origin is, or basically, not really where the origin is, or more like what is the main or the origin or the root belief that is at the base of all other limitations that we have. So the first thing that we need to do, this is why we dig, we try to understand where or what is that limiting belief. It can start by something very superficial or very, how do you say it, shallow, to something that is really, really, really deep, which is in fact the cause of having all those other layers. So once we reach to that belief, that root belief, this is where we start asking and understanding through our subconscious mind where that limit belief, where that root limit belief started. And when I say where, I literally mean where, as in like not physically where, but spatially where. Like in whether it was formed with your ancestors, whether it was formed with someone in your history, whether it's coming to you from your past life, or whether you have created it when you were a child for a very specific reason to teach you a very specific virtue. Then once we do that, we have to remember that those limitations, again, we created them, or our ancestors created them, so that they help us. So we question, are they still helping us, or now they are hindering us? If they're hindering us, we need to remove them. If they're still helping us, I personally like to keep them, but with a lot of support. So instead of having that limiting belief that makes you feel like you are always coming from lack and it's helping you somehow, right now it's escaping me, because for me, I don't have it anymore. So I wouldn't really understand why would anyone want to keep a belief that is causing them to come from lack. But let's say somebody wants to keep it. So instead of because they haven't learned something very specific. So instead of just keeping it there as it is, I personally like to support it with positive beliefs, with positive programs that can elevate that belief in lack a little bit, and maybe accelerate the process of learning that virtue, if that makes sense. For me, I like to do that instead of keeping that person literally drowning in that limitation. If they do want to keep it, they're still learning. I just give them a boost of supportive tools to help them learn faster. So that's also, and it all happens with when you are working with your subconscious mind. So it's not like, hey, I'm going to give you this tool, you go ahead and enjoy it, and here you go, another tool. That's not, it all happens when we are doing session and talking to your subconscious mind and asking questions that will help you figure things out for yourself. It's not like I'm here and I'm dictating things to you, and I'm just helping you. I'm your guide. This is how I like to see myself, as your guide throughout this journey of your own self-discovery, of your own release of power that you are looking for. Because this is who you are. You are that power. You are also powerful. You just want to know it. You just want to believe it. And you just want to say and take that decision that you know, yes, I am that power. And I know that I am that power. And now I want to learn how to release that power that I have within me. And limiting beliefs are one of the major things that hinder you or me or anyone from releasing that power, from even finding that power within us. But it's there. I tell you, we all have it. We are all champions, not just me and you. Everyone is a champion, and everyone is on their own learning journey. We always say it. If you listen to yourself when you talk, and how many times do you say that, oh, they have their, they have their things and they are learning. I'm on my own journey. They have their own journey. So we are all here on a literally a learning journey for our soul to rise, our vibrations to rise, and for our soul to have all the virtues that it needs to have to become a higher and higher vibration, and just float so high in like your aura or your existence will become that beam of light without literally being a beam of light. And you will feel it. You will feel it when people have these high vibrations. You will sense it straight away. You will feel it straight away. Like if someone comes into the room and they are on a high vibration, they've worked on them, they know, and their virtues are so well, how I'm losing the word, so well formed. You will feel it. You will feel their energy the minute they step in to a room. If you are there, you would turn around and look at them and like, wow. Although they probably haven't said anything yet, maybe they have a smile on their face, or maybe not. But you can feel their energy. You can feel their aura. It's already there even before they entered the room, because this is how big their energy is. This is how big their aura is. And this is how big your aura can be when you start working on yourself and figuring things out for yourself, and who you are and where you are with your life, and what are the things that are limiting you. And once you know them, it becomes a simple process. And you definitely want to be ready for receiving that learning, because it's all learning. You're learning about yourself, you're learning about your ancestors, you're learning about your parents, you're learning about your history, you're learning about where your soul has been, into how many lives you have tapped into. All of this is you learning by simply tapping into your subconscious mind and asking questions and questions and questions to get those answers that you're looking for in order to elevate your vibrations and become that champion, or release that champion who you already have within you. That champion is there. One very important thing about releasing your limitations and working on your limiting beliefs, and not only just working on your limiting beliefs, I think this is something that is very important, full stop, on all levels, in all timelines, in all languages, in all characters, in all personalities. This feeling, or this, it's a virtue actually. It's a virtue, and that virtue is the virtue of gratitude. The virtue of gratitude is so important that the minute you have it, and the minute you really feel it, it's not like I'm grateful because I can breathe. I mean, of course, I am grateful because I can breathe. I'm grateful for everything that I have been through in my life. Everything. Not just the good, the bad, even more, because the bad is what taught me, and the bad is what got me to the good. So I'm not only grateful for the good, I'm grateful for everything that I've been through in my life. I'm grateful for every single person who came into my life and actually hurt me. I thank them and learn to do that. Choose to want to do that. Choose to want to thank people who have hurt you in your life, because they hurt you for a reason. You brought them to your life to hurt you, to teach you very specific things. I personally, now it just crossed my mind how many times I've had friends, like really close friends to me in my life, girlfriends, who have betrayed me. And they've betrayed me. I brought them to betray me for a reason, not because I was testing them, but because I was testing the men I was with. And these girls, their job was to show me who these men were, because in my brain, these men were perfect. And these women showed up and did what they did because they were showing me that I was doing the wrong choices when it came to men. How crazy is that? But it's true. It's true. You bring people into your life to teach you. You bring people into your life so that you can elevate who you truly are. So that you can understand who you truly are. And these people, they come and they tap on those. It's like a piano player, like this is the note, this is the limiting belief, this limiting belief, and now we're playing this limiting belief, so that eventually we have this symphony of you becoming who you really are, and of you kind of fitting in that mold of who you really are, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like you're honing, you're sculpturing who you are. You're sculpturing who you are throughout your life. And when you understand your limitations, also you're sculpturing who you are, because now you know. Now you learned, okay, oh, perfect. Now this is how it needs to look. And you sculpture that by removing those limitations and replacing them with new programs that are working for you, that are helping you elevate who you are, elevate your life, elevate your vibrations to become that person, that champion that is in there, to just reveal that champion. First and foremost, to you. You want to reveal that champion to who you are, to yourself. You're not doing this to get approval or to get, a check from someone else. You're doing this for you. This is the first thing that you always want to remember. You want to choose to remember that. This is an exercise that you're doing for you, understanding your limitations, understanding your limiting beliefs, figuring out where they came from and why they were created in the first place, understanding whether they are still helping you, because at one point in time they were helping you. This is why you kept them. If they were not helping you, your subconscious mind would have thrown them away, but they are still helping you. They were still helping you. So now you know that they are there. They helped me here. Are they helping me still? Yes. Maybe we keep them. We support them, like I said, with catalysts that will speed up the process of your learning experience so that we can really remove that limiting belief moving forward. And then if they're not serving you anymore, it's very simple. We release them, we let them go, and we remove them and we replace them with kind of the opposite, the good stuff, the juicy stuff, I like to call it. And this happens while we are doing all of these in sessions. We could be using, I don't know, we could be using energy sessions. We could be using sessions that are working with our brain only, like so mainly like NLP, for example, which is neuro-linguistic programming, which is understanding how the program of the brain works, and then working on that program specifically to make things happen for you, to change. It's a huge topic. We're not going to talk about it now, but I'm just giving you like the different tools that we can be using for that, to do that. And when we teach our subconscious mind to do things in a different way, in a better way, and we keep on doing this, that's the trick. The trick is to repeat. The trick is not to do it just once and let it go. I'm not talking about removing the limitations. I'm talking about once you do that, you want to be very conscious about keeping that change that you have done for yourself. You want to be very alert if you fall back down into doing the same mistakes or into going back to those same old habits. You want to be alert. You want to remember, I'm not doing this. I'm better. I worked on this. I fixed this. Remember, and your conscious mind in that case specifically will go like, okay, no, we're not doing this. We worked on this. Now we are champions in this area. I'm not going to go backwards. I'm going to keep the change. I'm going to make sure that whatever I worked on stays with me, because I know that going backwards is not going to serve me, because I know that I've learned what I needed to learn from that limiting belief. I already know that. So now I'm happy to move on. And to move on, I want to keep that change. And this is what I did in so many instances when I was working on so many different limiting beliefs that I had. with that, I know I love talking about this, and really, I can talk about this for days, and I can like literally not stop. But, at some point in time, you have to take a breath. I always say that. And know that you are here and you're helping. And if this was me today helping you, I would love to know that from you. I would love to know that all the information I gave you today was helpful to you. And if you want to know more and if you want to talk more about this, because like I said, for me, I can talk about it for days. And if you want to talk more and if you want to really understand how this works, please type champion below and let me know. And we could get in touch, we could have a call, we could discuss, and together we will see, maybe this is an area where I can help you. Maybe this is an area where I can support you to overcome whatever limitations you may be facing in your life. So if this is of interest to you, and if you really want to know more and you want to talk more about it, and you want to understand maybe how I work and how I can support you, and I want to understand also how I can support you and what's going on at your end, let me know. Type champion below and I'll reach out to you and we will take this further. And with that, I'm going to say for tonight, ciao, ciao, and I'll see you next week. Ciao, ciao.